Okay, this is Applications of Quadratic Functions, Part 1. And I've written my first example here, and it reads, a painting measuring 10 centimeters by 20 centimeters has a frame around it. If the total area, including frame, is 336 square centimeters, how wide is the frame? So the first thing you want to do with a lot of these word problems is you want to draw yourself a little picture and see what they're kind of talking about. So I'm going to draw the painting here, which the assumption is that it is rectangular. So there's our little painting because it tells us that it's 10 centimeters by 20 centimeters. So again, the assumption is that we have this kind of a shape. And then somebody puts a frame around it. So I'm just going to kind of draw what my frame might look like. And the assumption on this is that the frame is the same distance all around the painting. In other words, the painting is kind of centered in the middle here. Okay. Now, what we have is we have the 20 centimeters and the 10 centimeters, but we don't know how wide this frame is that goes around. So I'm just going to call that width x. Now we're talking about this distance here. Now that's the same as this distance here, okay, which is the same as this distance here. Squeeze that in there. And that's the same as this distance here. Okay, so x is the width of the frame around the painting. Now what we have to do to solve this now, they do give us the total area of the frame and the painting. So this entire big rectangle, we know the area is 336 square centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the distance from here all the way to here. Okay, so whatever that is. Now I think this is going to be 20 plus x plus the other x. So what we have here, an expression for this is 20 plus 2x's. Okay? And I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the distance on this side of the big rectangle. Okay? So I think we've got 10 plus x plus this x over here. So this is 10 plus 2x's. Okay, so I have an expression kind of for the base and the height of the entire big rectangle, which is painting and frame put together. So I know the area of any rectangle is equal to the base times the height. So this is going to be 20 plus 2x times the height, which is 10 plus 2x. But I also know that this expression is going to equal 336. So this gives me a solvable equation. Basically, I have this, 336 equals, and we're going to start expanding out the brackets here. 20 times 10, so that's 200, plus 20 times 2x, so that's 40x, plus 2x times 10, so that's plus 20x. We'll just squeeze it in down here, plus 2x times 2x, so that's 4x squared. Now, I can see that on the right side, I've got the positive 4x squared, so I'm going to move everything over to the right side, and I'm going to write it in descending order. So I've got my x squared term first, then I've got 40x's plus 20x's, so that's 60x's. And then don't forget we're subtracting this 336. So this on the numbers now is going to be 200 minus, remember we're doing this, minus 336, and that turns out to be negative 136. Now to carry on, I've got my quadratic equation, and I've got it equal to 0. I could jump right in and use a quadratic formula if I wanted to, but I can see all of these terms are divisible by 4. And you know, that really makes life a lot easier. If I divide everything by 4, this is just going to be x squared. 60 divided by 4 is 15x. And over here, 136 divided by 4 is 34. And of course, 0 divided by 4 is still 0. So it's a much easier equation to work with. Smaller numbers and makes life a little easier. Now, I'm just going to give myself some room, so I'm just going to clear the page here. But before I do that, you could use the quadratic formula here. You know, A would be 1, B is 15, and C is negative 34, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's easier to see, does this possibly factor? And in the end, it actually does factor. So 0 equals, and if I factor out the quadratic on the right side, we would have x times x, and then I need two numbers that multiply together to make negative 34 that add up to positive 15. And those numbers are 17 and negative 2. So I have two solutions, it would seem, for x. Either I have negative 17 or I have positive 2. Now, I deleted my picture, but remember what x was. I'll just kind of redraw part of it here. If this was the frame and this is my painting, so here's my little painting here, remember that x was how wide the frame is, okay? So does it make sense if x is negative 17? I don't think so. I don't think that really makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to throw this out as, given the context of this problem, it's just not a reasonable solution. So I think that our frame is 2 centimeters, and that would be correct. And that's the end of this example, and that's where I'm going to stop. We're going to come back with a couple more examples.